used to be with it. Then they changed what it was. Now what I'm with isn't it, and what's it seems weird and scary to me. It'll happen to you.
Hello, and welcome to the What I'm With podcast. I'm Tim. This is my brother Dave, who is going back to the streets to beat the system. This means war, and he's on fire.
That's beyond belief.
Read this line right here. Read it for the kind folks.
Okay. In parentheses, or parenthetically, Dave might say something like, that was beyond belief. If he does, show him this.
That's the magic that you get on the What I'm With podcast.
That's amazing.
So, as you can see, today we're here to discuss the band Petra.
Petra, the iconic Christian rock band that we grew up with. Also, after that, I'm really feeling like you could just replace me with the Dave Palmer algorithm. Just
Like get the source code for one of those chat AIs
and
just make it the Dave.
Yep.
Dave bot.
Yep, Dave bot, and he'll attempt a witticism here.
Simpsons reference. Live reference.
Right. Something that sounded like a compliment, but was really an underhanded insult in an attempt to exert superiority.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Deep emotional pain wrapped up in sarcasm.
Petra.
Yes, Petra. So we're going to see Petra tonight as we are filming this.
It is their 50th anniversary tour, which makes them actually older than us, which kind of blows the mind that the band is older than us, the people, and the people are older than the band.
Yeah.
These guys are in their 70s, and they still rock.
Yeah, they still have it. I saw a YouTube video for the singer from our era, John Schlitt.
John Schlitt. Yep.
With the somewhat popular singer from Brazil, Mr. Dan Vasc, and they did a cover of Beyond Belief, along with, I have my notes so I can stay on top of things, John Lowry, the keyboardist.
Yeah.
So, and they did a Beyond Belief cover with one of Dan Vasc's guys on guitar. And it was awesome.
That's
because,
great.
One of the things that's interesting, Dan Vasc being a popular YouTuber of this era, is he actually got into his entire singing career because of Petra, and John Schlitt was actually like a mentor to him.
That's crazy.
So it's like,
that's crazy that, like, literally something we were listening to on cassette in the 80s in America influenced and began a career of a younger man in Brazil via the internet and whatever other means he had.
Well,
his career's internet-based, I should say.
Yeah, but Petra was actually really big in South America.
Well,
a lot of metal and rock bands were.
Yeah.
Which they even did a couple of albums in Portuguese.
Really?
Yeah, I've never actually listened to them. I'm aware of their existence.
Okay.
But yeah, so we're going to talk about kind of the era that we grew up with Petra. So in the lineup we're seeing tonight, we've got three guys from our era. The aforementioned John Schlitt.
Yep, we've got Bob Hartman, of course.
Bob Hartman.
The only founding member still with the band.
Correct, the guitarist.
Yeah.
So, and also the primary songwriter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then John Lowry, the keyboardist. So we have a different bassist, a different drummer, and both of those guys kind of joined in like the early to mid 2000s.
Yeah, the drummer, I know, like looking back over their whole lineup, the drummer seemed to be maybe the least consistent member of the band. Like, I think they went through 6 or 7 drummers, and it seemed like, each did about 5-10 years. And
something like that. I couldn't say for sure. But our era was actually from and considered the peak era of Petra was from 1986 to 1994, where the majority of the albums that we know and love came from, with the exception of Beat the System. Mm-hmm. So Beat the System came from...
was that 84?
Yeah. It was 84, 85. That was with their previous singer, which was Greg X. Volz.
Yep.
Volz,
I think.
This is the thing, when you read something and you don't pronounce it, how do you say it out loud?
Yeah.
Volz. Yeah. I'm going to say Volz because it sounds awesome.
It does sound better. It sounds
Greg
like a
Volz.
superhero, like Electro Man's secret identity is Greg X. Volz.
Greg X. Volz.
Greg times Volz.
Dude. Woo.
Snap.
So anyway, they did Beat the System in 85. Checking my notes here.
Off by a year. Okay.
And then after recording that album, that's when Volz retired from the band, and John Schlitt came in, and he actually toured with the band during that album.
And leading up to his first release, which was Back to the Streets.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And if you listen, so the sound of Petra from the 70s to the early 80s was I mean, it was always a rock sound, but it was much
softer. Yeah, they became hard rock when they switched producers with the acquisition of John Schultz. Or John Schlitt, sorry.
Yes.
Schultz is that the Peanuts guy?
That's Charles Schultz.
I have no idea why I said Schultz.
I mean, Schultz, Schlitt.
Yeah.
Schneider.
Yeah.
Other words that
other
sound
words,
like that.
yeah. So yeah, I know they also switched producers, got guys that had more experience in heavy rock.
Yeah. So Back to the Street is really a perfect transitional album between those two sounds. It's definitely a little more heavier on the rock, but once we get to This Means War, the next album, that's when we're hitting that stadium rock anthem songs with ballads in between. And absolutely fantastic. So for me personally, it's really This Means War, On Fire, and Beyond Belief. For me, that is Petra. Those are my 3 favorite records. And then Beat the System is just inching in there.
Okay. Yeah, I don't disagree with my modern ears. I have a slightly different order if you go to nostalgia. But if you go...
Well, I didn't listen in order, just in general. If I had to pick my favorite record, it would have to be On Fire.
Yeah.
And then it's like, if On Fire is 99 out of 100, Beyond Belief is 98.9.
Oh yeah. No, they are neck and neck.
It is right there. And then This Means War has a couple of my favorite songs on there too.
Yeah, that's how I feel about Beyond Belief. Beyond Belief has Speak to the Sky, which was always one of my favorites.
Was that Beyond?
Oh, not Beyond Belief. I'm sorry.
Beat the System.
Beat the System. Yeah, that pre John Schlitt. That still makes my top 3 probably just because of Speak to the Sky.
Yeah.
And Computer Brain, as silly as it is, I just remember it so vividly.
I was listening to it the other day and thinking, I would like to take this song and redo it as an industrial song.
Oh, dude.
Kind of like Circle of Dust.
Yeah.
Because it actually kind of jams, and it's still very relevant today.
Oh, yeah. Put garbage in, get garbage out.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very relevant message in the lyrics.
Speaking of messaging, this is a great segue. I almost feel like I should be getting paid.
Okay. Oh, wait. No, you don't need my money.
No, I don't. So, speaking of messaging, what I found hilarious in my research, my extensive research of the rock band
1 or
Petra,
2 pages of paper on a clipform.
It's 3 pages.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry for underestimating you.
Well, it could have been 1 page. It's just the text is big, so I can read and not get...
Yeah, formatting matters.
So I got to go back to my dates here. In the late 80s, so 86, 87, Petra is coming under fire from a evangelist. Wait, maybe that's over here. Oh, criminy. There we go. Jimmy Swaggart.
Oh,
and so he's accusing Petra and rock and roll in general of being of the devil.
Sure.
Which is hilarious if you listen to any single one of Petra's albums.
Yeah.
Any single one.
Anyone.
Yeah,
like there's not an example you can find in their lyrics that are not overtly pro-Christianity.
Yeah, I would say the exception that comes to my mind would be the song Computer Brain. It's not specifically Christian or religious, but it's more...
It has good moral value without necessarily subscribing to an ideology overtly lyrically.
Correct. So, in a direct response to that, Petra goes on tour during the On Fire era with another evangelist, Josh McDowell.
I'm not sure I know that name.
I don't know the name either, but we were very young at this time. So,
sure.
Yeah, we're into Petra. I think we're getting albums as they come out right around Beyond Belief.
Before then it was you could get in the back archive back when this was a thing, your local Christian bookstore.
Yeah, I was thinking back to that time and like, oh man.
We had 2. I'm just now remembering the one across from the hospital. Yeah. I remembered the Olive Branch, I think, was the one by the second run theater.
Yep.
And then the one by the hospital, I don't remember the name of.
Yeah, I can almost see the name in my head, like in purple with like the sign has like one of these domes.
Yeah.
We'll probably fact check.
Maybe it's such an obscure...
Family Christian Stores. I think that's what it was called.
I think you're right.
I think that was called Family Christian Stores.
Good
on
pull.
the spot.
Good
on
pull.
the spot. So, neither here nor there. So they go with this other evangelist, Josh McDowell, and so he's giving sermons and kind of like reinforcing, hey, these are Christian guys. They're doing the Lord's work. And
if you guys are at all aware, I mean, I know this is not necessarily a religious podcast, but one of the big kind of revivals of Christianity was the Jesus movement, which happened in the 70s, and Petra actually was part of that in the tail end. They did a lot of, now this was before John Schlitt, but they did a lot of stuff with the Jesus movement and playing at churches and stuff like that. So
yeah, and then the 80s were a really interesting time for Christianity. We're kids, so we're kind of under the radar of all of it, but you got the good guys, you got folks that are doing the televangelism that maybe aren't above board. I'm not one to say one way or the other.
That's between that's not our business.
But those of you that grew up in that era probably remember a few things. Yeah. So
Jon Stewart did an amazing bit on
to go there
on Daily Show called God Stuff, which unfortunately made Christianity look pretty terrible. But all it was really doing was shining a spotlight on people already making Christianity look pretty terrible. So
yeah, and as Christians ourselves, we found it hilarious.
Yeah, it was like, hey, look at those whack jobs.
Yeah, but yeah, it's like anyone, right? Yeah. You're gonna have people.
Oh yeah, you got all types in any. You get a group of people that are into the same thing. You're gonna find some weirdos.
Correct. So they're doing this tour. They've got Josh McDowell, and then again to reinforce, like, hey, we're out here, we're Christian guys. That's like for Petra, that was a big deal. Yeah. So they rock. Their music is awesome. It holds up today.
It's actually shockingly good production value. Like I actually only started re-listening to Petra in the last several months. They just kind of fell off my radar.
Same.
And then when we started talking about this podcast and talking about how great everything was when we were kids, of course Petra came back up. That was the band of our youth. Like, we didn't listen to anything else for almost years.
So I go back another year and a half of listening to Petra. So I'm on the other side of back surgery and recovery, but I had a couple of fits and starts of like feeling better, feeling way worse.
Oh, right.
And so there's a period where I was feeling better for like a month. I was like, okay, I need to start exercising. I've put a lot of weight on. So I would blast On Fire, and I would just exercise. I would go up and down all I could really do was walk. So I'd walk up and down my basement stairs with Petra blasting in my basement, just to keep me motivated. Because, man, the anthems, they're just...
That's so funny because, I also recently started working out again. Sometimes I got pretty sick, and it kind of was an eye-opener for my health overall. So I started going to the gym a couple times a week, which is better than 0 times a week.
Yeah.
And just this week, because we're filming this episode and also because it's great workout music, I was blasting Petra while working out. It was awesome. It's great. Yeah.
So all that to say, this is music for everybody, not just for Christians.
Yes, it's phenomenal music, and if you happen to be a Christian, the lyrics are going to be right up your alley.
Exactly. So they went a step further after their tour with Josh McDowell, and they did Petra Praise, which is their worship album, and it was like kind of talking to youth ministers, like, hey, what can we do to be more relevant in the church setting and stuff like that. So, which it's pretty cool. They did a worship album. They actually did a couple of worship albums. I think 3. Yeah,
3.
But
I can't remember. There were 2 Petra Praises, and then there was a third one that might have been called Revival or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds right. But that's past our era.
Yeah.
So our era, to get back to that, so we've got Back to the Streets, This Means War, On Fire, Petra Praise, then Beyond Belief.
Beyond Belief, which, again, if On Fire's 99, Beyond Belief's 98.5, 98.9.
And the titular song is a banger.
It's amazing. Also, we will link the music video down here. Music video's awesome. I mean, it's cheesy.
Yeah, well, it's the 80s.
It's the 80s. It's the 80s, and it's on, well, still probably the highest budget Christian rock band ever. It's still a Christian rock budget, not a big mainstream budget. So there's issues.
I haven't watched. I've purposely not watched. I want to save it for a reaction
of
nice. Some kind.
Yeah.
But just tell me, is this vest era John Schlitt or non-vest era John Schlitt?
I don't think he had the vest. He did have 2 belts, and neither belt was functional. They were just there.
Nice. That's rock and roll, man.
Oh, man. I mean, you got to accessorize, man. It's the 80s.
What do all the wristbands do?
Oh, right, yeah.
They don't hold
they're not
holding.
No, it's attached through sinew and flesh and bone.
Yeah. It's not keeping your sleeves
zhuzhed. Zhuzhed.
They're there.
Yeah.
If anything, especially if you're a guitarist, they're getting in the way of your ability.
They could very much be getting in the way of performing. Yeah.
So maybe it's just I need a challenge for myself.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put some bracelets on there. Gonna be
speaking of, I don't know why this just came to mind. Like, how many, not you, because you never did, but how many guitar players do you think have a tattoo right here?
Oh, yeah.
That is like the guitar player tattoo, right? Because, I mean, you're holding, for the right-handed, I mean, there's like 4 left-handed guitar players. But
didn't.
Right, probably not. But, yeah. I don't know. In my mind, that is always a guitarist tattoo. Like, if I see a guy with his most impressive ink right here, like, that guy plays guitar. Or bass.
Yeah, if I ever got one, I'd probably get something really stupid that says, like, power chord and points down. Just in case you didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
I'm not the most skilled guitarist, so I can do the power chord. Moving on.
All right.
All right, so, but what I want to say about Beyond Belief is that it stands as their best-selling and biggest album of all time.
Yeah, it's also, and no offense to the band, it's also, in my mind, kind of where they peaked. I never really loved the albums that we listened to after them.
No, there was Unseen
Power and Wake Up Call, which
they both have some good songs like
it just feels very
Shaking the House.
Yeah,
that's a good song.
But it feels like almost a regression in sound, like it's going away from heavy back to lighter, back to more contemporary, more audience pleasing.
So it's interesting. I a lot of these notes I got from Wikipedia.
Yeah.
But I just trimmed out the stuff that I felt relevant. But I believe, as I recollect upon it, that's when they changed producers again.
Okay. I think you might be right. When I was doing my brief amount of research, because I was going to pepper you with some trivia on our way to the show tonight. Yeah. We'll see how that goes, because you've already talked about a couple of the things. So, there's only so much information out there. So
that's true. I had devised a game that I just couldn't make it work, unfortunately. But I was going to try to do something like a Mad Lib, but you have to fill it in with either song names or very specific memorable lyrics from a chorus.
That would have been funny.
But I was looking, I was like, yeah.
It just didn't.
Yeah, maybe we'll try it some other time.
Yeah, well, we're going to do a post-show episode, so maybe we can put our heads together and make it work for the post-show.
Yeah, so there you go. All right, so mention the last 2 albums that make up our era.
Yeah.
So the one that I think is their Portuguese album says Petra en Alabanza. So that was 92, right between Unseen Power.
Yeah, that's their first. Because they also did Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah, in both languages.
Both languages. That's right.
So
in my head, it was Spanish, not Portuguese, but we can throw it up on the jumbotron.
Yeah, I'm assuming because
Brazil is Portuguese speaking, but I don't know if it's because the continent is predominantly Spanish speaking. So
correct.
It could be. Could be Spanish.
Yeah, maybe in Brazil you have to know Spanish and Portuguese.
Yeah, I mean, it could be like a commerce language the way English is in so many countries.
Which is funny. Total tangent. Talking about, we were watching an old cartoon and just got on the subject of like, well, yeah, these people, Adam and Eve wouldn't be speaking English, right? And then I was like, well, because my daughter made the point that there'd be the Tower of Babel and then the splitting of the languages. I was like, well, I'd like to think, because I speak it, that actually English was the original one.
The original language, yeah.
And that everything split from that, and that because the majority of the world has to speak English today,
we're just coming right back.
Yeah. So you heard it here first.
Yeah. The first human language, English.
American
English specifically.
Spoke American English.
Yeah. Not that silly British English.
Like, what's up?
How you doing, girl?
Things like bussin'.
Yeah. Oh, bussin'. Wow.
Ooh, I know. I'm sorry. I'm too old to say that.
Yeah, you are.
Unless it's like that. Look at the bus in that tunnel.
The bus is it's bus in the tunnel.
That's
I like that.
All I can say. Okay. So there was an era now. Okay, which we will call the post Bob Hartman era.
Yeah, because he retired from touring. He was still a band member, still a songwriter, but he was no longer the touring guitar player. He wanted to be with his family more.
Yep. Which makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
totally get it.
I would want the same, especially considering he was, at this point, if not the last original remaining member, one of them.
Yeah, I mean, he is now the last original, but I don't remember if there were other originals at the time of his retirement.
And I mean, what are we talking?
Well, retirement.
Right, like we're talking like mid-70s, early 70s. I mean, so he'd been, at this point, it's the 90s.
It's the 90s. He's been doing Petra for at least 2 decades. Yeah. Maybe pushing 2.5.
Yep. So totally understandable. So yeah, he stays.
And he would have been mid-40s to early 50s at that point.
I'd have to check.
I mean, I would think, because he formed Petra when he was in college.
Oh wow.
So
I guess that would add up. But I'm terrible at math, and then math on the spot, I'm even worse.
Yeah.
So
I think Petra was either 74 or 76, somewhere around there. when they formed.
Yeah,
and he would have been in college, which would have been, let's just call it 20 for easy math. So by 96, he would have been 40.
Okay, yeah.
So
we're in our 40s.
Yeah, we want to be home with our families.
I don't want to be touring. I want to be home.
Yeah, I like travel, but a little travel.
Yeah, but writing songs and just studio gig.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I mean, it sounds fantastic. So,
I would love
that's
that.
what's going on. The band is changing. The keyboardist, John Lowry, leaves the band as well, only to come back later. And then we're just going to kind of jump past that era because we don't really know much about it. I listened to the album No Doubt for the first time recently.
I didn't even bother. Like I listened to Jekyll and Hyde because I figured that was going to get some play tonight.
I listened to Jekyll and Hyde, and man,
it's good.
It rocks.
Yeah,
it rocks.
Like it felt. Okay, I'm getting out of order.
Yeah, so I'm not going to list all the bands. Just No Doubt was. It's one that it's not on this. You have it.
I do. Yeah, I have it.
Yeah, and so I just listened to it on my phone. But it's fine. There's a couple of good songs, but it's just they go really mid-tempo. They're not doing the anthems anymore. So it's kind of like the world is going towards alternative music.
Yeah.
And so they're kind of softening up and doing the same thing.
Okay.
So, which is fine. I'm all for a band evolving over time. Lots of my favorite bands have done it, including Petra.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some evolve into great things and some don't know when to stop evolving.
Yes. But they come back around. So it's been a while. And in 2003, Bob Hartman returns to touring, and this is when they go and record Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah.
Which
is a banger.
It rocks so hard. Like,
it's a really. I'm actually really looking forward to however many tracks from Jekyll and Hyde they play tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they're going to play the titular track. They have to.
Yep.
And the title track.
And yes, thank you.
Upright Citizens Brigade. If you haven't seen it.
So we'll probably have to listen to it on the way up because I've listened to it once. And
I've done one all the way through the album, and then I've listened to the titular track a few times.
Yeah. So he comes back, and then for 3 years they do a slow farewell tour. And so what I have in my notes here is that their last show, officially before disbanding, was December 31st, 2005 in Murphy, North Carolina, nearly 34 years after Hartman had founded the band.
Man.
Can you imagine? So they're playing on the 31st, right, and the show ends the following day, so technically the beginning of 2006.
January 1st, 2006.
So,
18 years ago.
Yeah. And in that time, they've played a couple of things, so they're not officially a reunified band, but they did form Bob Hartman along with Greg X Volts.
Yeah.
Greg times Volts.
And
a few other guys. They went back and did classic Petra.
They did. Yep.
So,
they got an old lineup together and did some touring, which is awesome.
Playing the 80s.
Yeah.
And
then I
70s,
think
80s,
Bob and John Schlitt did Two Guys from Petra. I think was the side gig that they did.
Oh, nice.
They wrote original songs. I haven't listened to it yet, but they wrote. Maybe that's something we can add to the road trip. They wrote some original music as just Two Guys from Petra.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm curious.
Me too. So so that's kind of where their career ended, and so we stopped listening to Petra all through this time in the 90s, mid 90s. We're into alternative,
hardcore, metal,
punk, and then post hardcore and
some of the emo screamo,
but also some really pretentious stuff like a lot of. I guess you call it Britpop. I don't know what the.
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Franz
We kind of
hot heats.
Yeah, we went through some weird musical phases, but I think as you get older, you kind of go back to your roots.
Absolutely.
And the roots for me have always been in the hard rock sphere.
Yeah.
So whether it's classic hard rock, metal, hardcore, and then just some straightforward rock and roll and 90s alternative.
Yeah,
kind of the stuff that you were listening to in high school is really going to be what you come back to.
And then and of course Petra being our first what would you say, like this is our first taste of our music. Before that, we're very young kids. It's our parents' music.
Yeah,
so whatever they
very
have on
very
the
vivid
radio.
memories of like Paul Simon, Elton John, Kenny G.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember
Stephen Curtis Chapman,
Michael W. Smith, Amy Grant, I think might have been in the rotation.
Sandy Patty was one of them. A lot of Christian contemporary singers.
Yeah.
There was,
but this was sort of the crowbar separation between what our parents listened to and what we listened to, and being the 90s and 80s Christian kids we were not necessarily given access to the whole catalog of what music was out there that might not have the same messaging.
It's like Kicks kid tested, mother approved.
Yes.
Yeah. So this was
the kid tested
music, but parent approved because it's Christian. There's no demonic stuff in it.
Right. They're not urging you to go out and make poor decisions.
Yeah. Even that.
Yeah.
Or just they're not telling you to rebel.
No.
They're just it's all just good sound stuff.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah. Good stuff.
So. Yeah, so you could say that Petra was really the beginning of our musical journey. That
I would say so. I think that's fair.
And it's really fun for me now in my mid-40s to come back and listen to it.
Oh yeah. Well,
it
wasn't it such a treat to just put it in and be like, oh my gosh, this is still good.
Yeah.
Like this is not just through the foggy, nostalgic lens that it's good. This is of its own merit. Fantastic.
So I have an anecdote for that comment. My anecdote is this. In the late 90s, early 2000 era, we're hanging out. We're deep into the hardcore scene.
Yeah.
Primarily. So if you remember, I affectionately nicknamed him Hardcore Mikey.
I remember Hardcore Mikey, of course. I
always
wonder what happened to that guy.
So we're just talking, and I was like, somehow we're on the topic of like Christian rock.
Yeah.
And so I think we had talked about Striper.
Oh, of course, the Yellow and Black Attack.
Yeah.
I actually did see them live once.
So I was like, hey, there was another Christian rock, almost metal band from that era.
Yeah.
Petra, you got to hear them. So I go rustle through this box, find an old cassette, and I'm trying to pick which one. I was like, and in my head, Beat the System was the heaviest album. Because I hadn't listened to it since being a young man.
You did not choose the heaviest album.
So I put on, and I'm like, I get it queued up, ready for Beat the System, thinking it's going to have oomph. And he's like, this isn't rock and roll. And just like, fail and humiliation.
Yeah.
But yes, going back and again, when I rediscovered Petra, I went directly to On Fire. Because in my head, I have this other anecdote that I'll share. When we were kids, we were out in the backyard on our deck, and we were heavily into this album, and we just wanted to set up a rock and roll show where it was our stage.
Yeah.
So we put some like baskets and stuff out to be the drums and like a broom to be the guitar. And then our next door neighbor, Mr. Johnson, who was only ever in three forms. It was either in his fedora and trench coat and suit, like three-piece suit, walking up to the metro bus to go into the city where he worked. It was relaxing in his house, or for me, out taking care of his meticulously maintained backyard.
Dude, that yard was immaculate.
Immaculate. So he was the best next door neighbor you could ever have.
Can I anecdote your anecdote?
Well, let me just wrap it and say, I just remember as we were playing On Fire on our boom box and going along, whoever's the drummer, whoever's the guitarist, him just looking over and just like kids, but like not in an annoying way. Like he thought it was adorable, I guess.
Yeah.
So, On Fire rocked.
Mr. Johnson had plastic wrapped furniture.
Yes, he did, and stairs.
Yeah, and our good buddy, Mr. Jason, did some work at the Johnson's house. They still live there.
No.
And their plastic wrapped furniture is still there.
I bet you it's in perfect condition.
It's in absolute perfect condition. Like I wish I tried to get him to take a photo and send it to me, but he had already missed the window. He's already completed the job. But
because we're sitting in a time capsule of the 80s and 90s.
Yes. I mean, in my mind, I could just go outside right now and be next door to Mr. Johnson.
Yeah.
Like, this feels like our basement.
Yep. Except we had tile on our floors and this carpet upstairs.
Yeah.
Other than that.
Yeah.
So it's an amalgam.
Yeah.
Of our
also, we didn't have any cool stuff.
I mean, we had great stuff.
Yeah. Just,
getting
we just used it. We just didn't decorate with it.
Correct. Yeah. So it was all, heavily used in probably poor condition.
Yeah.
All right. So, we're going to go see. This is what we're going to see. This is Petra, 50 Years.
50
so this is a compilation album of the 50 years.
I think is it not 50 songs as well, I believe?
I didn't count. It's 3 discs, so it's entirely possible.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure you can get it on vinyl, and it's 5 vinyl.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And it was
probably could get it tonight if you wanted to.
I don't have a turntable. It would just be a very expensive decoration. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. So, do we want to talk about our next installment of Everything is an Opportunity to Prove Which One of Us is Best?
That is exactly what we need to talk about next.
Excellent. So, we came up with a game, knowing that we had to prove which one of us was best again.
Okay.
And that game is trying to predict aspects of tonight's set list. Now, we figure it's a reunion show. There's a lot of ground to cover. We're not going to try to put down 20 songs or whatever it is that they're going to do tonight. It's going to be too much work. So what we did was we had to pick, in no particular order, the first 5 songs and the last 5 songs. Mm-hmm. Then, within that, we had to pick what we think their opener is going to be, what we think their second to last song is going to be, what we think their last song is going to be, if they have an encore, what it will be, if there's a song that they'll play twice, and which album is going to get the most plays.
Yep.
So we have prepared lists.
In sealed envelopes.
Sealed envelopes that we will crack into on episode 2 of this.
About
Tim,
look at this. I mean, my handwriting isn't very neat, but it's Tim's Petra set list.
Where
you look like you're about to go on a revenge tour.
I'm pretty sure in here is my list of demands to let Petra go. Just do what I say, and I'll let them go.
You can go home.
All you have to do is the list.
You can even add a little. Put whatever you want in the middle. We're not picking the middle songs.
Just do the list, and you're free to go.
I will say, and we'll talk about our mindset going into these lists when we return from the show and talk about it. Mm-hmm. But I've taken some risks, and I've wanted to go back and rip this open and make a new envelope with a new list twice, and I haven't done it. I'm sticking to it. I don't know that I feel strong about my chances, but I do think if my gambles pay off, they pay off big.
Now, I am willing to bet all of the points that I have the opener right.
I can't. I can't, because
that's the only one I have supreme confidence that I have picked the song they're opening with.
I have toggled between 2 songs that I think could be the opener, and I think the one that I did not put as their opener is the one that you did, and I was doing that thing where you try to think, how's he gonna think,
right?
And let me just try to. I think we're gonna line up on a lot of stuff, so let me just try to be different. And if I lose, I lose. It was a lot of fun to do, and
if you lose, I'm better.
Right. Yes. And then
and then you have to hear about it.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. That's what we do. We're brothers.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's all out of love.
Absolutely. Or something similar.
Yeah. Love adjacent. Feelings.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess on that note, we are going to prepare for our little road trip. We've got a couple hours behind the wheel ahead of us. We're going to do some taping while driving to test that out.
Yep.
That will probably be where I throw some trivia questions at Tim. Maybe we'll listen to some of the stuff we haven't listened to and talk about it. And we'll add that in.
Yeah.
Either to this episode or the next.
And yeah, as long as it comes out great, it's going to be a lot of country back roads from where we happen to live to where it happens to be. It's mostly farmland in between, which is just going to be a great drive. So I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be fun.
As a drive.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll check in with you guys next episode. Do the stuff in the bottom.
Hey, thanks for watching. Hit the like. Hit the subscribe.
Listen to some Petra.
Do yourself a favor. We'll link to their website or something.
Yeah, their website, or maybe we can find a good Spotify playlist or something to link to. Yeah. But there'll be stuff down here for you to look at, and then push those things that make us seem more popular than we are.
Yes, please.
Please. We need you.
Yeah.
We're desperate.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Dr. Nick.